out where you hold tension. And for many of you, it will be in the upper body. Do that 2 more times, just rolling down, making sure your corset is done up. Letting the arms hang, that's the way, and then uncurling up. Next time you roll down, let the hands touch the floor and walk them forward. Until you're lying down, so you come down onto your knees. And roll over onto your back. Once you're on your back, you need to find neutral pelvis in a lying down position. So make a diamond with your thumbs and your index fingers and place it with your fingertips down towards the pubic bone and the thumbs towards the navel. And just tip your pelvis forward and back and see how much movement you have. Tipping forward and back. To make that a little bit easier to find the neutral pelvis, roll to one side and place the ball under your sacrum. Not right on your bottom, not in the small of your back, but on the sacrum. So you're in a spot where you can easily tip the pelvis forward and back. So just try that, girls, tipping the pelvis forward, tipping it back. Again, you might like to place your hands there just so that you can find your pubic bone, your navel, and get a sense of water tipping out of a bowl towards the chest and tipping out of a bowl towards the floor. This is also a lovely exercise to release tension in the lower back. Just repeat that a couple more times, making it an easy movement, not a movement that creates tension. So you're not thinking of tightening your buttocks. It's literally just tipping forward and tipping back. Then roll to the side again, take the ball away. Just place it down beside you, and again tip the pelvis forward and back and see if it's any easier now to find that movement. You might find that you're a little bit looser in the back, a little more suppleness. And then find a place where your hip bones and your pubic bone are level with each other and slip your fingers under your lower back, and there should be a little space. For most people there'll be a gap, some of you will be flatter than others. And then think of drawing up the muscles of the pelvic floor, switching on your internal corset again, and take your arms down beside you. So now you should be lying with a neutral pelvis. Take the ball now, pull the stopper out and squeeze a little bit of air out of the ball. We're just going to have a look at neck placement on the floor. And then place it underneath the base of your skull to support your head. All these exercises are working to get good spinal alignment on the floor and release tension. So now just press the back of the head into the ball and your chin will drop down slightly to the chest. And then release it back the other way a little. It doesn't have to go a long way, just a small movement, pressing into the ball and then releasing. And repeat that a few more times. It's a nodding action. Remembering to breathe. So this exercise is called neck extension. Now nod your chin down towards your chest, place your hand behind your head and lift your head up. Take the ball away and lower it back down. And just see how the neck feels now on the floor and how the back of the head feels. Does it feel a bit different? chin should drop slightly towards the throat, not jamming the back of the head into the mat, not over-activating these muscles in the front of the throat, but just gently softening the chin down. And then relax your shoulders. Again, check to make sure that you've got that internal corset switched on. And lift your right arm up and take it up and overhead towards the floor behind you and observe what happens. And then inhale and bring the arm back down beside you. Repeat that a couple of times on this side. And then do the same action on the other arm. Just observing how you feel when you're moving your arm. Where do you have restriction in the movement? Do you feel that your shoulder hitches up towards your ear? Do you feel that the rib cage lifts? So when you've done a few on that side, then change to the other side. Does it feel the same on this side, or does it feel slightly different? Often you'll have one side that feels much easier than the other side, much more controlled. Good. Now take the ball underneath your left hand. If you need to reinflate the ball, you can just pull the stopper out, and it should reinflate to a soft ball. It should never really be hard. So just take it underneath your hand and imagine that it's a big lump of scone dough. And you want to roll that dough out by rolling the ball towards your ankle and then pulling it back. So get the movement to start with your shoulder blade. So it's a feeling of the shoulder blade pulling down the back and the shoulder blade lifting back up again. So you'll find the shoulder will hitch. So Pindi, if you take your whole hand onto the ball, that's it. And then it's a pulling down and a pushing back action with the hand. So you can actually press down into the ball. It's like you're kneading dough. And then see if you can do it without moving the ribs, just by isolating the shoulder. This is an exercise for scapular awareness, so just to become really aware of what happens through that shoulder girdle. Now roll the ball down towards your ankle, take hold of the ball, lift it up and take it overhead, just like you did earlier. And then inhale to lift it back up, and exhale to lower it down by your side, and inhale, release. Then you exhale, roll it and lift, take it over, and then bring it back. Things to watch out for when you're doing this exercise, and you can test yourself by putting your opposite hand on your rib cage, is that the ribs don't lift. So when the ball is coming up and over, you're aiming to keep the rib dropping down towards the floor, as if you have a piece of string attached between the bottom rib and the hip. You don't want to snap that piece of string. So keep a little bit of tension on the string, but not too much. When you exhale, feel as if the ribs are just gently spreading on the floor, so softening down onto the floor. We're not trying to create tension here. Just do one more on this side. Generally speaking, we're aiming for about 8 repetitions of each exercise. And you'll often notice that Janine and Pindi don't always work at the same speed because they're working with their own breath. They're not working to the music and they're not working to a count. They're working to their breath. So when you finish this repetition, just change over and use the other arm. Just be careful that the knees don't drop in or out. You're always trying to aim for hip width with the knees. And Pindi, I'm going to ask you to just bring your feet a little bit further away from your bottom. That's it. Good. So just rolling the ball down towards your feet and then bringing it back up. Let's do a little bit of adjustment here, Janine. There you go. So just rolling and bringing it back, remembering to keep everything switched on. Relax your jaw, relax your face. And just observe when you're rolling the ball, is anything else moving with you? Do you find that your knees might wobble? Do your hips wobble? And then roll it down towards your feet. Lift it up, take it overhead. And then bring it back down again by your side. And release. Not cueing the breathing too much here. As long as you are breathing, you'll find a natural breath with this movement. As a general rule, exhale when you take the arm or the leg away from the centre of your body, and inhale when you bring it back. But just remember to breathe. Ask yourself, does it feel the same on this side, or does it feel different? Are you evenly balanced? Or does one side work a lot easier and a lot more smoothly than the other? Just repeat 2 more times. Just be careful of your ribs here, Janine. They're popping up a little bit. That's it. So think of funneling it down. That's it. Good. And now bring it back. Soften here. Good. Just relax your shoulders, Pindi. Yeah, there you go. Now just test without the ball. Just one on each arm again, and just see if it feels any different now to the way it felt before you used the ball and did the rolling. These last few exercises are very much awareness exercises, so you become used to moving and begin to get to know which muscles you need to work, which muscles you don't need to work to make the movement happen. Lovely. Keeping your knees hip-width apart and your feet hip-width apart, we're going to start to work for a little bit of stability in the pelvis. So just looking at how the pelvis moves when you move your legs and seeing if you can keep it still. So, feet flat down on the floor. Just check that pelvic tilt again. Make sure that you haven't flattened your back or arched your back, that you've managed to keep it flat in that neutral alignment with the hip bones and pubic bone level, with a little space. Good. And then either lift your pelvic floor muscles or draw in that space just below your navel, one or the other. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth and just peel your right heel off the floor. Keep your toes down and lift just the heel and then lower it down. Inhale, exhale, and peel your left heel off the floor. And inhale and lower it down. Repeat that a few more times, inhaling through the nose, exhaling gently through the mouth, exhaling when you lift the heel, inhaling when you lower it back down. And just observe what's happening through the pelvis. Checking that the knees don't suddenly pop out to the side. So just keep your knees there. Beautiful. Relax your shoulders. It's interesting when you're doing exercises as simple as this, what else will come in to compensate and where you'll find you hold tension. For a lot of people, it's up through the neck and shoulder area. When you feel comfortable doing this movement, begin to lift the whole foot off the floor. So you peel the whole foot off the floor and it lifts just slightly off the floor and lower it back down, gradually making the movement bigger. Just challenging the pelvis a little bit to stay in its neutral position. And relax your shoulders. Now begin to lift the leg up until the knee is above the hip and you've got a 90-degree angle at the knee joint. So it's very square. It's like you're putting your heel onto a coffee table, and then lower it back down. And just see if it feels the same on the right as it does on the left, or does it feel different? It's sometimes nice to use an image of helium-filled balloons attached to your knee and your foot that lift you up, or even better, that someone's inflating something under your leg, which brings your leg up. Just repeat it once more on each side. Just be careful of your knee, Pindi. It's dropping out to the side a little bit. That's it. Good. We're going to challenge this movement a little bit, but it's also going to help you to get it better when you're back on the floor by taking the ball. There you go, Janine. Pull the stopper out of the ball and let about 1/3 of the air out. You don't want it too hard here. And then roll to one side and again place it under the sacrum. That's that bony mass just above your tailbone. And lie back down on the ball. And we need to re-establish the neutral pelvis here. So just tip your pelvis forward and back like you did when you were doing the pelvic tilting. The neutral will be slightly different here because we want the alignment to go from the outside of the hip to the outside of the shoulder, maintaining the curve in the lower back. So you need to be very careful that it doesn't drop back. So just tip your pelvis back a little bit for me. That's it, so that you're not dropping back this way, but at the same time not overarching the back. You need to keep it in that neutral alignment so that you still have the connection with the ribs and the hips. Repeating the foot paddle. So exhale and float one foot off the floor and inhale, lower it down. You might like to start by just lifting the heel, or you might go straight up to bringing the knee up above the hip. So again, Pindi, relaxing your shoulders. Good. Checking that the ribs are always dropping down, so soft through the rib cage. And just be very careful that the hips remain level. If you had a marble or a bead sitting between the two hip bones, you don't want that bead rolling side to side. For more of a challenge, and Janine, I'm going to ask you to take this. Could you take your arms up just above your shoulders, please? You can reduce your base of support by lifting the arms up. This is a good foundational exercise. Just repeat it once more on each side. And then roll to one side, take the ball away. How are you feeling through the front of your hips? A bit tight? You might begin to feel a bit tight through the front of your hips. So just reassess your posture. Feet hip width apart, knees hip width apart, neutral pelvis, corset done up. And go back to those foot paddles again and see if they feel any different now to the way they felt before you put the ball underneath the pelvis. Remembering to exhale when you float the leg up, and inhale when you take it back down. Relaxing your shoulders. Just do a couple more. And then relax for a moment. Let your shoulders relax. Breathe normally, remembering that the inhalation through the nose and the exhalation through the mouth and the expansion of the ribs is a training breath. It's not a breath you use all the time, it's specifically for your Pilates work. Tip your pelvis back now and flatten your back slightly. And then come back to a neutral pelvis. So you're just doing a pelvic tilt, squashing the back. We're just going to stretch out through the front of the hips. They've done a fair bit of work lifting that leg up. So now we're just going to stretch it out. Now tip your pelvis back and lift your bottom up off the floor, and then peel yourself up off the floor one vertebra at a time until you're up on your shoulders. And the alignment we're looking for here is that it's a straight line from the outside of the knee joint to the outside of the hip joint to the outside of the shoulder joint. So one straight line through. Inhale when you get to the top, and exhale, lower yourself back down again, one vertebra at a time, until you're back on the floor with a neutral pelvis. Lovely work. Try that a couple more times. Exhaling when you come up, inhaling at the top, exhaling when you come back down, and inhaling at the bottom. And again, Pindi, relax your arms, relax your shoulders. Good. I'd like you to turn your palms up, Pindi. That's better for you. Just observe when you're doing this movement, where is the restriction in your back? If you think of a bicycle chain that's not been well looked after, often with a bicycle chain, the links will not move smoothly and it will come up in one big lump. You're trying to get it to come up one link at a time. So try it one more time. Observe if all the links are smoothly oiled, or whether you've got a few that are rusted together. Now we're going to use the ball again. So roll to one side, place the ball under your sacrum. Good. It should be in a place where you can easily tip the pelvis forward or back. So just do that a few times, tipping the pelvis forward and back, and then we'll put a little bit more emphasis on the ball. Next time you tip the pelvis back again, imagine that it's a piece of dough and you're going to tip the pelvis back and try and push it towards your heels. And then relax back to a neutral pelvis. So press down into the ball and roll it towards your heels. And then come back to a neutral pelvis. When you've done this a few times, begin to lift your hips up off the ball and peel yourself back up onto your shoulder. So we're going back into the shoulder bridge. We're doing this exercise for mobility, to find suppleness in the back. Relax your shoulders. That's it. So even take your arms a little bit wider. Good. Up you come, one vertebra at a time. Beautiful. Keeping the knees hip width apart and just softening your ribs a little. Gorgeous. And then drop your ribs down. Come down one vertebra at a time until you're back on the ball and relax your shoulders and neck. That's good. Repeat it 2 more times with the ball underneath the sacrum. So pressing the ball forward, tipping back, peeling up, making sure that the knees don't pop open. Imagine you've got a ripe mango sitting between your knees and you don't want to drop it. Be careful that the ribs don't pop up. That's good. One of the watch out points when you're doing this exercise, just do it again, Janine, so peeling yourself up. Good, tip the pelvis back more, that's it. Yes. That is that the ribs don't pop up and you end up with a big dome. You want to end up with a ski slope, not the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And then come down, drop the ribs down. Yes, good. And then take the ball away and do 2 more shoulder bridge without the ball under the pelvis, and just observe if it feels any different. Do you feel as if there's more mobility there now? Good. Oop, watch those ribs. Excellent. Relax your hands. Good. One more. And then come back to your neutral pelvis. And we'll do one more exercise that's going to challenge the pelvis stability. Knee drops. So, imagine your knees are a book. You want to open one cover of the book. So you exhale and open one cover of the book by dropping one knee out to the side. And then inhale and close the book. And then exhale and open the other cover of the book. And inhale and come back. So we're just looking for stability in the pelvis here, not to be rolling it side to side. So Janine, show what can happen if you let it go. Can you see how Janine's pelvis is tipping right over? So now bring it back. Good. And coming back. So again, it's that marble. So you might find that the knee doesn't drop out very far. It might only move a few centimetres. A good thing to think about is the knee that's not working and keeping this side still. So dropping down into the non-working side rather than thinking of the working side. But at the moment it's fairly simple. You might like to stay at this level for a while, but now we're going to begin to challenge it. Just be careful, Pindi, on this side, this hip's dropping a little bit. Just do one more to each side for me. Keep this hip dropping down. Good. Yeah. And then keep this hip dropping. Right. To challenge it a little bit more, take the ball and place it underneath your sacrum. So again, have it quite squashy and squishy. When you really get to a point where you need to challenge a lot, that's when you put more air into the ball. And find your neutral pelvis again. So always take the time between exercises to reset the posture. Excellent. Relax the ribs. And now try that knee drop again and see how you go with the ball underneath your sacrum.